I'm going to start with an apology because I'm a little unscripted here. I usually do talks on crafting stories of failure, building with creative confidence, or the culture of branding. But you guys are not designers with like 10 years of experience who I'm trying to lecture. So instead, this talk is for the 5 to 10 people that I've met in the last few days, almost hours, I would say, who've shifted my perspective of how I look at myself. They helped me remember who I was before any of this. And this is kind of the messy, uncomfortable truth that you won't see on LinkedIn posts. Because if you're an entrepreneur and you're on LinkedIn, the one expensive lie that they end up selling you is that there is a formula for this. There's a framework that you can apply. There's the right book that you can read. There's the right coach who you can employ. And let me tell you that none of this is going to help you crack it. What works is creating something that nobody can copy. And it starts with being someone who you are often told not to be. So in 2014, when I got my degree in architecture, there was a full-on ragging session going on at home. Every day at the dinner table, it would be, haven't you found a job yet? And for somebody who worked for about 4.5 years while I was doing my studies to be able to pay for my way through college, it kind of felt very uncomfortable sitting in that situation. The worst part was a couple of days later, I found myself clearing the round 7 of a data entry specialist at Amazon. And the only spreadsheet I had made up until that point was income expenses, basic stuff, and a list of all of the architecture firms that I knew across India that I had applied to. And the hiring manager at that point tells me, you seem a little overqualified. Because yes, I had a good command of my language at that point. And a lot of these googly questions I would end up answering with a lot of rationale and logic. But this was a statement that I was told not just then, but at multiple different points of time in my life. You're too white for my Indian family. I was too brown to be an internationally recognized designer. I was too loud to be a woman. I was too opinionated to be a corporate employee. And I was basically very, very honest, too honest, to the aunties who kept asking me if I would get married or not. And if any of you guys need very creative responses for that, please come see me after. All of this, funnily enough, from the US perspective, was called a very strong personal brand. But in the Indian context, it was an attitude problem. So I cleared round 8 and I'm sitting there. The next step is for me to sign a 2-year bond with Amazon. And my Nokia 1100, if any of you know, we play the snake game on that. It goes off really loudly and I'm in this waiting hall and everybody's looking at me. It's an unknown number. I'm like, do I really pick this up or not? I did pick up the call and that call changed my trajectory. It was a visiting faculty from my college. I'd never taken any of his classes, only known him through other people. And sometimes I would randomly go sit in his class to be like, okay, I'm bored elsewhere. Let me just figure out what you're doing. He called me up. He had received my portfolio. Back then, it was like printed portfolios that we had to send to their office. There was no, let me send you an email and be done with it. He'd taken a look at my portfolio and he said, I don't have an internship position for you because honestly, this portfolio is too much. Again, same feedback twice in the same day. But he had arranged for me to have an interview in Delhi within the next 2 days for the position of a level 2 architect. Now, this is somebody with 2 years of experience, and I had no years of experience in architecture at that point. Now, logic dictates that I just open that door. There's a stable job, a salary, every Auntie G and Uncle G's approval. With that Amazon job, that's like 2.5 minutes away. And I'm pretty sure you guys know what I actually did. With 600 rupees in my pocket, 2,753.43 in my bank account. You hate the paisa wala numerals. I had no map and I landed up in Delhi, only to figure out that the office was in Noida. Did not know how to get to Noida, got to Noida. It was for a job of 2 years of experience. I had no experience whatsoever. But luckily, I was one of the few people that decided to show up for that interview. Within 6 months, I was a senior associate at the company. Not qualified to be able to do that job at all. And yet, I was leading projects in urban planning and ecosystem design. So my takeaway from all of this, and at multiple times in my life, has always been that being too much or too little only matters if you're in the wrong group. Your success is not a formula. Your success actually depends on the amount of courage that you have. If you have the courage to be the only one, you have the courage to show up for yourself, and you have the courage to get into bigger and better rooms. And my question for all of you today, as people who are just starting off in the world and starting off in your journeys, is how many rounds of interviews are you willing to sit through feeling smaller than what you know you can be? How many formulas are you following in your life that was written for somebody else's story? How many of you are shrinking your vision to fit the reality that is around you? Remember that your too much is somebody else's just enough. And you won't find those other people if you keep living in a version of your Auntie J's dreams. Going from a successful entrepreneur to being too much is my dream. I'd like to be too kind. I'd like to be too loyal. I'd like to be too good to be true. And that's exactly enough. And that's exactly what I've learned for my death's tombstone to say. So choose courage. Choose the messy middle. Choose a vision that excites you, that is audaciously and truly boldly you. Be too much. For the few people that have inspired me to do this talk today, they are too honest, too vulnerable, and just too curious. Create that path, especially when you're uncomfortable, and find courage in it. It is my absolute honor and pleasure and privilege to be accepting this award today. And I would say this is on behalf of all of the people in my life and all of the people that I will meet who've always held space for me to be too much. And